Welcome to the Mom Entrepreneur Success Podcast with Mariana C. Ruiz, the podcast for the go-getter mom entrepreneur who refuses to let motherhood slow her down from achieving success and making an impact. Tune in Mondays to learn the success secrets of top influencers who also happen to be moms so that you can reach the success, freedom, and impact you desire.
Welcome to the Mom Entrepreneur Success Podcast. I'm so excited to have you here and to finally share these episodes with you that I've been working on for a while now. And so the first season is really going to be all about giving you the inspiration, mindset, goal setting, that kind of stuff, as well as lessons from successful mom entrepreneurs. And we'll see where we go for season 2. So I'd love to hear your feedback. What's working for you? What are you loving? And what do you want to see a little less of? It's totally okay for you to share all of that with me. So head on over to iTunes and leave me a review or message me. You know where to find me, marianacruiz.com. And so for this very first episode, I have my client and friend, Elizabeth Salazar from Get Visible Marketing, who's an amazing interviewer. And so I had to have her on to interview me so that you can kind of see how the first season's going to go, all of the questions I'm asking the entrepreneurs who are getting on here, and how I've been able to build my business, some of the secrets that I have learned along the way, the lessons, so that you can start to implement them in your business and get to the level of success that you desire. Are you ready to get started, Elizabeth?
Yes, I'm so excited, Mariana. Thank you for inviting me to do this with you.
Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, so let's jump right in. So why don't you tell us all a little bit about how you got here, how you got started in your online business? Tell us everything.
Yeah, definitely. So it's a little bit hard for me to pinpoint exactly when my entrepreneurial journey began, just because as a child and young adult, I absolutely adored little business ventures here and there and was always kind of a side thing that I would do just for fun. And I can think back and remember when I was about 10 years old, I started my first business. It was me and my friend, and we decided we were going to collect cans and we would buy them from all the neighbors. At that time, my parents were in college, grad school. And so we lived like in a complex with a lot of students, and students like to drink, so there was a lot of cans. And so we went door to door to all the neighbors' houses and asked if we could buy their cans, and we would return them for them. And so we would make about 2 cents profit between the buying and the selling of the cans for the 5 cents. And it was really funny, but also just like really reminded me when I started thinking about the answer to this question is like, oh my gosh, this has been something that I've enjoyed since I was a kid. And as a kid, I did, all the stuff that kids do, like selling their crafts and all of that. Like that was always fun for me. And so my parents are both professors, college professors at one point or another. My mom's a musician and my dad is an engineer. And so what ended up happening is I followed the path that they were on as well. And so I went to school, went to undergrad, even went to grad school. And I did so, at first I did psychology because I love it. And then I ended up going into nursing because I really love neurology and the way the brain works. And I graduated, I landed my first job as a neurosurgical ICU nurse. And it was funny because just like every other 23-year-old, the very first thing I thought to do as soon as I got a job and started making some really good money was invest in rental property so that I could generate passive income. Yeah, just like every other 23-year-old. At any rate, I continued to climb the corporate ladder in nursing, which is not really common. And so I went on to do organ transplant coordinator. It was an amazing, very, very fulfilling job. And then I went on to be a case manager. And as a case manager, it was really cool because it ignited my love for entrepreneurialism and business. And I got to see like how the hospital was utilizing the resources that was available and how to really allocate those resources to save the hospital money. So that was a really, really fun job for me. And at the same time, I was up for a possible promotion. My boss really loved the work that I was doing and the impact that I was making there. And so I was all in. I was really excited to get a promotion and keep going up this corporate ladder. And I even was considering going to get another master's degree so that I could, climb even further. And then I stopped and I took a look at my life, at what I was doing. And I was like, this really is not what I want to be doing, because I barely saw my son, like maybe an hour a day. He was sick every other week, literally, from being in daycare and, all the germs and everything. And it just was so eye-opening to me when I stopped for a moment and took a look at what was really happening in my life. And although I had quote unquote success, it really did not feel that way. And looking at my future and continuing to climb that corporate ladder, I saw that I would have even less freedom than I currently had, and that did not feel good to me. So I decided to go into health coaching. I had a friend who was a health coach, and she was doing extremely well as a health coach, and so she inspired me, and I, went on and did health coaching, and it was great because, about 8 months later, I got pregnant with my daughter about a month after being a health coach. I felt like a huge fraud. I was trying to lose weight while teaching people to I was gaining weight while teaching people to lose weight. And I felt like a fraud, right? And I had gone to my coach and I said, I don't know if I can do this. And she's like, just do it. You're teaching people to be healthy. You're not teaching people to lose weight. And so I had to shift my mindset around it, and I persisted anyways. And I'm so happy that I did. My daughter was born at 28 weeks gestation, and she was in the NICU for over 2 months. And I used my income from being a health coach to support myself during this time, which was really, really incredible. And after I went through, the roughest point there, I decided I really needed to do this. I needed to help other moms to build businesses as well. I needed to show them what I was doing in order to, sell, and what I was doing to make money. And I also really felt like I didn't want anyone to have to choose between having a life that they enjoy, having a life with their kids, and making money. Like, that just did not sit well with me. And so I wanted to empower other moms to make an income on their own. And what ended up happening when everything was in alignment, I was doing the things I loved, feeling fulfilled, and feeling like I was making an impact in the world. And at the same time, I was carrying out this mission to help moms. I had a business that ended up just booming. I officially launched in January. Now, mind you, I did do pre-work for about 3 to 4 months prior to launching. So it was not by any means an overnight success. I also had run businesses on and offline. And, I launched officially in January. February was my first 5K month, followed by July, my first 5-figure month. And again, none of that was without effort. I did it with no nanny. I didn't hire a nanny until actually August. And so I wanted to talk about what is it that people are doing on a daily basis. What are the quote unquote secrets, and how are we juggling this all with being a mom, with being an entrepreneur, Not saying everybody's going to have the same quick journey, because I think success is 10 years in the making. And so bringing that to light, right? Like bringing the honest truth, what people are really doing and what it's really like to run a business working from home, and many of you also working a full-time job. So that's kind of the mission of the podcast.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's really powerful, because I think that's what a lot of women, they wonder. I look at you, there's somebody else, we have a mutual friend, and, I look at how you guys do it when you're juggling and before you had help. And, I think that's one of the things that people think is almost like a secret, or how to do it. So, you've done all of this amazing stuff, being a mom, 2 small kids under the age of 2, one of them was a preemie in the hospital, but you've still grown your business from, doing really well, even in the beginning, your first month, to, making 5 figures this current month. So, how has being a mom impacted your business and your ability to do all this amazing stuff?
So I feel like I have turned that time limitation into my biggest superpower.
Okay.
Because I don't allow myself to just dabble in my business. So from the very beginning, because I knew I had to make it work, because I knew I had to make it work to survive and to feed my family and to pay medical bills, I was 100% in. Mm. So with that in mind, it allowed me to think, okay, I just need to do what I have to do to make it work. And it's just a matter of when. And I didn't second doubt myself and think like, can I really do this? I didn't think any of those things. I just moved forward one step at a time.
Yeah. Well, and that's really powerful. Not giving yourself an out. I think that's something that helps people to be more successful, is when it has to work. You were supporting your family, you were adding to the income, and you knew that your alternative was, I can have all these babies and never see them. And so I think you had a really great level of motivation. So when you look at success, how do you define that?
Success to me has been really about getting to live out my purpose and the thing that I love to do, get paid for it, and still have the freedom to choose when I see my children, how much or how little I get to see them. No one's dictating, you have to be here from 9 to 5 or whatever. And really just the whole time freedom, financial freedom, and really the integration of my life and my children all coming together with my purpose.
Well, and as somebody that you've coached, I have to say, there have been times, and I know you said this isn't your norm, but where your kids, I can hear them in the background, and I'm always really impressed with your ability to stay focused on giving great value while pushing your kids in the swing and then talking to you or, whatever. And, and so I think when you're very reasonable with your success of I can do this, I can sustain my family with this, that's a good level of success, because it's such an arbitrary question. We can all define it so differently.
Yeah. And I had my coach tell me once in the beginning, and this really helped me to reframe it. She said, if you don't define success, then you could literally get to $1 million a year in revenue and still not feel successful.
Yeah.
So it's really important to define what that means for you and what that looks like for you in your life, so that you know when you've gotten there and you can really and truly appreciate that.
Yeah, and having the tangible numbers. I heard somebody the other day, they did a live stream, and they basically said, what do you want? What do you want in life? If you can only pick 1 or 2 things. And, I think everybody's inclination is money. And, my second thought after money was, there's a certain amount. There's a certain amount of money that when you get to this point, I'm not willing to tilt the balance any farther, other things have to come in balance. And, so I like that you're saying putting a number, putting specifics to your success, because having money could be huge. It could go on forever. You could never achieve it. And yet if you say, like you said, I just don't have to work, I don't have to go back to a corporate job or any kind of job you're working before. And that's a good attainable level of success.
Yeah.
Okay. So was there anything along your journey that you wish you'd known sooner? And, a lot of times we feel like these are the secrets. So we want to know, what are the secrets that, you learned along the way that you can share with us?
Totally. So for me, what I wish I knew when I first started is that the process of making money online, even though it's online, is very one-on-one. At least it has been for me in my business. From 0 to 10K months has been literally one-on-one. And it's not popular. It's not what most people are talking about, but that's what worked for me. And I, feel really passionately about getting the message out to people, because I feel like nobody ever talks about, like, let's say you have an email list of like 100,000 people. Like, it takes a while to get there, right? And the conversion rates and the sales page conversion rate, there's just so many other variables. And when you do it one-on-one, it's an easy place for you to start when you have 0. When you have nobody on your email list, you only need one person to say yes to your offer.
Yeah. And this is actually one of the things that really impressed me when I first met you. And one of the reasons I hired you was because I like the simplicity of it. And for me, being a marketing person, I wanted to make it complicated. I still do, I won't lie. But when you make it so simple that, okay, your goal, you want to make money, you want to prove to yourself that you can do this instead of working a real job, that really hit home with me, that you only need one person, and then you'll go out and find the next person. And you don't need a funnel. You don't need a low price product. You don't need a, group course. Ultimately all you have to do is build relationships. And I think that if people can understand that one thing in this podcast, they will walk away with more than they anticipated.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that. 'Cause I think, as a marketing expert, that's probably really was an obstacle for you for sure. And it's, the marketing is definitely a piece of it, but that first client is really the relationship.
Yeah. Well, and it's even caused me to tweak the way I talk about marketing to where it's relationship marketing. Like, yes, you can, because you can build a big business with products and courses and still do relationship marketing, because that's what it comes down to. And I mean, that's one of the things that you're teaching and training people on. And I think that in order for people to feel successful making money online and almost like prove it to themselves, they have to make money. And that's one of the things I like, is that that's what you're helping them do. You're taking people's hands and you're saying, let me show you how to not get distracted. Let me show you how to get that first client.
Yeah. And the distracted part is hard.
Yes, it is. Okay. So if there were one or two things that you'd say, like, what do you do to stay on top of your game? Like, what are a couple of things you do every day?
So I wake up ultra early. I wake up at 4:30 in the morning. Now, I don't necessarily recommend that everybody do that. I know you wake up super early. We've had chats at like 5 in the morning. But I wake up early so I can have alone time, because I'm a huge introvert. And so for me, being alone recharges my batteries more so than sleep even. So I meditate, I journal, I have what I call my mindset tool bag, which is just kind of some mindset tools that I use, like EFT tapping and a few other things to just kind of, get my head on straight for the day. And the most important thing I do, though, during that time is I get crystal clear on my number one priority for the day. And then I go do that. And if, like, all hell hits the fan, like, I have already done the most important thing that's going to move my business forward before my kids wake up. And sometimes they've woken up early and, put a dent on that, but that's more rare than the usual day.
Well, and give us an example. So, I mean, you don't have to tell us today, but what would be an example of one of your most important things that are going to move your business forward? Because I think that for me, when I make that list, there's like 12 things. And I think the audience might be able to relate to that. And so in our minds right now, we're like, oh man, we knew Mariana was a superhero, but she doesn't do anything. So what are those things sometimes?
So an example would be like, if I haven't created my content for the week, I need to create my content like ASAP. And another example might be to reach out and follow up with some people I've talked to on the phone over the last couple of weeks. Another example might be, okay, I had an interview on a podcast, or I want to have an interview on a podcast, and I really want to get this interview, so I need to like go and pitch them. So they're kind of things that are going to make me more visible. They're things that make connections one-on-one with people, give value to other people, those kind of things.
Okay, that makes sense. And I guess I want to clarify, do you have more than one thing on this list for the day?
No, just one.
Okay, but like for your daily list, like you don't have a list of things you want to do. You just have the one thing, and then anything else is just kind of off the top of your head.
So everything else gets prioritized also based on how important it is and how urgent. But I don't always just do the thing that's the most urgent. Like right now, I have a donut tire on my car, and I've had that donut tire there for probably like 2 weeks. Oh my God, I'm so embarrassed to admit this. But every time I've gone to the computer to order the tire that I need, my husband is really, really into tires. And so he thinks I need to have the original tires for my car. So every time I've gone to do this, and it's been on my list for a few days, not as the number one priority, but as the number two. And every time I've gone to do this, I need something else, another bit of information that I didn't have. And so instead of like, beating myself up and being like, oh my gosh, I can't go anywhere because I have a donut tire, I just kind of let that stuff go. I let go of anything that's like not my number one thing. Like getting that donut tire replaced is not necessarily going to fulfill me and my family and give me more time with my family. It's not going to bring in money and support my family. And at the end of the day, it's okay. So that's kind of how I prioritize the rest. It's urgent, yes, because I can't live on that donut tire forever, but it's not necessarily the most important because it's not moving me towards what my goals are.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. And I think that's good for people to hear that you are prioritizing things. And I've heard people, and sometimes I think it's easy for us to maybe get sucked into, especially when you work from home, like, oh, I should clean the house, or I've been meaning to organize my room, or the dishes are dirty. And I do a really good job of ignoring all that stuff, but I have a very supportive husband. And so, but I think that a lot of other people might feel that pull of those things. I think mine probably are like more business things that aren't urgent that pull me. So that's cool to you organize that.
I totally agree with you. Like my house is not by any means clean. It's not super organized. And now I have a nanny who helps me a little bit with that kind of stuff. But those things are the same. They're not necessarily going to move you forward. For some people, that affects them more. Like they can't really work with the mess. But for me, I am perfectly okay ignoring all of that fluff.
Yeah. Okay. So, we've talked about your business, how successful it's been, some tips you've done, some of the great things. One of the things, though, I think we can all relate to are challenges and struggles and just areas we haven't kind of done our best, maybe a failure. So in your business so far, like, can you tell us about an example of one of those things and how you've overcome it to, be as successful as you are now?
Yeah. So the biggest quote unquote failure that I had in my business is I ran a webinar when I first started. It was the first month, it was in January, and I had run cold traffic to it. So when I did that, I had about 100 new people come on to my email list, and I had taken a course on webinars. So I had told them all about the live event, like everything was good to go. And it's the time of the webinar, and my computer is like shutting down uncontrollably
Oh, no.
to do the actual presentation. And I had no backup. Like my husband's computer, it's not like I have a Mac, he has a PC. I didn't have any idea or like knowledge that this might happen. So I didn't back it up. It was in Keynote. It was kind of just like a mess. And luckily I had a VA who has been with me from the beginning, and I had her go in and send an email to everybody telling them what was going on, because I couldn't even send an email. And then she, told everybody, and we rescheduled for the following week. Well, the following week comes, I get 6 people on. One of them is my VA. One of them is my coach. I did the whole presentation and it went fine, but I didn't make any sales even after the follow-up sequence. So I was just kind of bummed out about it, but I didn't, again, like let any of that get to me. I was just like, what can I do now? Because this event is over. I don't know what else I need to do to like move forward. So around that time, I started working with my coach, and she was like, well, start reaching out to people in your group. And I had a Facebook group. It was under 100 people at the time. And so I did. I started just reaching out to people in my Facebook group, and I ended up booking 2 clients just through one-on-one talks in January. And I was like, wow, it was a light bulb moment, because it allowed me to see this whole thing that like selling will be one-on-one for a while for my coaching packages, and that it was really okay for me to reach out and help other people. Because what ended up happening is one of those clients did exceptionally well. She, has like, soared in her business, freed herself from her 9-to-5. It just went like amazing. And without having that failure of the failed quote unquote webinar and the tech issues and all of that, I would have never seen that the selling part was so important, and that one-on-one relationship building and kind of those skills that I needed to work on, that and how important they were.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That would be terrible. Because I'm thinking like, I don't have a backup. Something happened to my computer. Thankfully, all the files are safe. But so, I mean, it really sounds like you churned something that was probably a big disappointment. You'd taken a course on webinars, you geared up for this. This was the beginning of your new business. And so then to kind of be like, oh my gosh, what else could possibly go wrong? I love, though, that you then turned to your coach and she gave you very tangibles, even though your Facebook group only had 100 people. Because I can hear people saying, like, well, my Facebook group only has 100 people. And so the fact that you say that number, I think will give people hope that, there, 100 people, that means there's 1 that could hire you. There's 2 that you could reach out to and get to know. And just to clarify, when you were reaching out, when you were reaching out to these people in your group, how were you doing that to book those calls?
So I literally would just say, hey, I love the work you're doing on such and such. Oh, and the other thing I did, which I didn't talk about here, but I did a ton of connection calls. And I've done that ever since too. And so I do connection calls, which are just like, hey, I love what you're doing. Let's get on the phone and just get to know each other better. And that's it. There's no expectation that they're going to be my client. There's no expectation that I'm going to be their client. It's just to get to know people. And that has built not only like, yes, my business, referrals, sales, all of that, but more than that, it's given me a support system. Yeah. There's people that I message back and forth with every single week, thanks to doing this type of stuff. So So basically I just would reach out and say, hey, I love what you're doing. Do you want to talk more? If it's somebody that I felt like I could really, really help, I might even, especially at the beginning, I would say, hey, I'm going to give you a free coaching call because I really see some things here that I could help you with, and coach them for free with no expectation of anything, just helping.
Okay. Yeah. And I want to hit on the whole connection part. I mean, we connected because somebody had connected us for a podcast or interview. But, that was one of the things I felt like when I met you, like, I never felt like you were pitching me. And yet there was like, oh, there's this nice person who knows what she's doing. And she just told me how amazing she is and all the stuff she does. And I think so often people are afraid to get on the phone. They're afraid to give away their time. But in the beginning stages of your business, like, that's your job. Mm-hmm. Your only job is to talk to people on the phone and connect with them in a real human way, because that's how you make those relationships that lead to bigger things, whether it's opportunity or clients or whatever.
Exactly. And you just never know. But I feel like if you go into it with an expectation of a sale or like whatever, that's when you get into trouble, because it gets kind of awkward, right? But instead, if you just go into it like, I want to get to know this human as an individual and the beauty that they bring to the world, then it's like the floodgates are open for anything to happen, as far as like opportunities and possibly working together and just a friendship, a lifelong friendship.
Yep, I couldn't agree with you more. So here's the burning question we all want to know. If you had to start all over again, I mean, you said you just started in January. This is August. It's not that far off. But if you were starting all over again, you had no business, you had no team, you had no list, you had no connections, and you had 3 hours a day, because that's some moms out there, that's what they have. They're like, I'm working all day, I have kids. How would you start over with 3 hours a day and get your business making $5,000 a month? Oh, maybe you have $5,000. We'll give you some money too. But how do you get your business started then with those kinds of criteria?
So what I would do is, on the weekends, so let me just make this clear. If I only had 3 hours a day, I would probably work 7 days of the week on my business.
Okay.
And so that I would have to mentally prepare myself, right, with that. And then what I would do is on the weekends, and this is what I did do. So on Sundays, I would create my content for the week and repurpose it. And then during the week, I would do as many connection calls as I possibly could. And then I would so that would probably take me about 2 hours a day, right, on connection calls. And then by then I would probably have some clients, right? And then 1 hour a day I would spend posting the actual content that I created over the weekend and actually engaging in groups and on different places in social media, mostly Facebook groups, and is what I would use, because that's what worked really, really well for me. But engaging is so important. And so I would devote an hour a day to actually posting a couple times a day and engaging in the different groups. And then 2 hours for actually one-on-one connections.
Oh my goodness. You make that sound so easy, but I like that you were specific that I'm going to have to work 7 days a week. I'm going to do these 3 hours every single day. I also like how simple it is, because you're just focusing on the things that matter, getting on the phone with people, creating content that leads people to your brilliance, and then showing up and putting it in a Facebook group or wherever. There are a couple more things I want to ask about that. One of which is, so if somebody's saying, how do I get these calls with people, even if they're just connection calls, I'm brand new, when you were just starting, I mean, were you just posting in groups and then people who commented, you were like, hey, you want to chat? How were you getting those? How were you kind of leading into those relationships?
Yeah, so I would just start reaching out and probably giving away some free sessions inside of my group.
Okay.
And Oh, and I didn't really talk about what I would do with the $5,000. So with the $5,000, I would get a website, and I would get a coach for sure. And I would probably get like the hosting and those other smaller things like the email list provider, those kind of smaller things. But that's what I would do with the money, because without the coach, I wouldn't have the support and like somebody to bounce ideas off of. And without the website, it's hard to kind of sell your packages if you don't have something out there. I don't think it's like the very first thing I would do. I would probably just start with an email list until I got the website going, but that $5,000 would definitely go towards that.
Okay. Well, and you said that like for booking your calls, you would have a Facebook group. So do you recommend people start a Facebook group right away?
I only recommend people start a Facebook group if they're 100% passionate about Facebook groups and being in there. Okay. Because if you're going to hate every moment of it, that energy is not going to be helpful to the people there, and it's not really going to get you the results that you want. I feel like if we are resisting anything and we do it anyways, it makes it really difficult to be successful at it. So whatever they feel like they want to spend time on.
And so inside of your own group, I know you said earlier, like you had 100 members and you just reached out and you did the connect, and I guess what I want to make sure people know is that when you have your own group, you're really establishing yourself as the authority. And so it's a different atmosphere than when you're going into someone else's group and offering calls. Like people are going to be more likely to say, yeah, I'd love to have a 20 or 30 minute connection call with you, or free coaching, or, whatever. So it's a lot easier when you kind of add that variable in.
Yeah, and you're posting in there every day, at least a couple times a day, and engaging with people. So you are exactly an authority there, and people see you the most there. So they know that, what you do.
Yeah. Well, and you'll see, you'll know the people to connect with, because they'll be the ones who will continue to comment on your stuff, and they'll be there too. And so I guess if anybody's listening and they're like, oh, I don't know, that still sounds hard. When you have your group, you're going to see these people kind of come to the top. So you're like, oh, I see them all the time. Those are the people that you reach out to.
Perfect. Yeah, that is so true.
Okay. Well, is there anything else that I haven't asked you that you want to make sure you share with moms to help them reach their next level in business?
Yes, I would say to keep your head up, keep going, and take it one day at a time. It can be rough being a mom entrepreneur, and it can also be pretty rough being a business owner. We're challenged every single day. And so remembering to, work on your mindset, get the support that you need, and remember business-wise to always lead with value. And that's why content creation has been so helpful for me in my business, and has really helped me to not feel pushy or salesy when I'm, creating a promotional post, because I'm always giving value. And so I wanted to share that resource with you for the content challenge. It's a 5-day challenge where I walk you step by step through my system for creating content. I save hours and hours every single week by using it. And it also allows me to sell without being salesy. So be sure to check it out. I'll link to it in the show notes. And it's really important. Lead with value and give great content, and keep your head up and just keep going. And, we'll talk more on the podcast about all of these things, but mindset, leading with
very neat. And for anybody listening, I've gone through her training. I've, really loved it. And, for those of you who are thinking like, oh, I desperately need to show up consistently, I need to be visible, creating your content and using a structure like Mariana has in this link she's sharing with you, which I'm sure is in the show notes. This is what will help you to get to that point. Even if you use intuition and you kind of follow, you tweak it, you're getting the base of exactly what you need to create content consistently.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth, for coming on and interviewing me. And also thank you for tuning in to our very first episode. That's pretty much how the first season's going to go. I'm also going to sprinkle in some solo episodes that are going to be shorter and a little bit more action oriented with like some lessons. And I'd love to hear from you. So, let me know what you're loving, what you're wanting to see a little less of. In our next episode, I'm going to be interviewing Mary Catherine Johnson. She runs a successful podcast called the Parent Entrepreneur Power Podcast. And it's a very, very in-depth, amazing interview. So be sure to tune into that. It's episode 1. And I'll see you in the next episode. Bye-bye. You've been listening to the Mom Entrepreneur Success Podcast. Thanks so much for tuning in. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Head on over to iTunes and leave us a rating and review. By reviewing the show, it allows us to reach a wider audience, as well as spread the mission to help mom entrepreneurs everywhere to go from zero to their version of success quicker with more joy and ease, even as a high achiever. As an added bonus, I'm giving away a free 20-minute strategy session with me each and every week, where you'll get expert advice on your business to help you get to the next level of success that you desire. Can't wait to talk to you soon. Have an awesome day.